penis, floppy 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 penis.
You better be recording this.
Penis. That was beautiful. Thanks, guys.
Day one. Just
shut up and sit down.
welcome back to Loud, Confused, and Ready. We are your hosts, Sam,
Cam,
Kip,
Elliot.
Next segment, we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between being offended and, I don't know, and just being a normal human adult who can deal with negative criticism or just any sort of negativity. And then etiquette versus political correctness, right? So I'll kind of lead this off, but I wanted to see if any of you guys had any sort of like real life experience, like a moment that you kind of like draw to mind where you're trying to talk to someone as an adult and they just kind of, you know, they just seem like they can't handle it. Because here's my issue, okay? So for being offended, I've always had a issue with, because like we've talked about in a previous episode, I am that troll friend. So when I'm messing with people or just being devil's advocate on random shit, it always irks me when people can't seem to like take it or process it like an adult should. And I thought about this quite a lot, and I came to the conclusion that a person can never offend. And you guys can disagree with me, you know, please do, but you can only ever be offended and decide to be upset and hold a grudge is kind of what it really is, by what someone does or says or anything like that. And it comes with having the intention or believing someone else's intention is this way or that way. And so it's all an internalized affair that doesn't really have anything to do with a third party. I don't know how you guys...
It's kind of funny because I was going to say that same exact thing, but I couldn't remember if it was you and I had this discussion or if it was somebody else. But that line with you can't offend, you can only be offended. Yeah.
that actually, I don't want to be that guy, but I think that was me that brought that phrase because I took it from what's his nuts? Carlos Mencia's stand-up. Actually,
yeah, I couldn't remember.
That was a phrase from his stand-up, his Comedy Central Presents from like 20 years ago.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was one of you guys or something.
Yeah. So I think we had this conversation, and I had brought up that phrase. But
I actually,
you may have also.
I came up with this when I was in high school because I actually pissed off my family more than anybody else, and I actually had this conversation with my mom, who was very much. She is a sweet woman, but she can be defensive very, very quickly, and especially when you have to deal with me 24/7. It's, you know, I don't know, it's reasonable to get that way.
Yeah, I'm almost at my limit right now. Come on, let's get this rolling, shall we?
I've been triggered.
Yeah, I'm a little triggered, but just by you just existing.
Yeah,
I don't like that plaid you got on.
It's not my fault.
It offends me.
Well, I'm trying to go full hipster, and it's not really working. I can't get the beard.
Saying that word because it's really, I mean...
Stop being a hipster.
I need myself.
I'm offended. So
I've always thought that between like those two, like, so the pendulum's kind of swung the other way, right? Like back in the day, everybody just kind of said and did whatever and didn't really give a shit about how anybody felt about it. Now it's sort of... It swung the other way where it's like everybody is super sensitive to everything that's said and that they, you know, everything is sort of taken to heart, and then it's sort of like, well, it's your responsibility as the person saying the thing to not be offensive to anybody. Right. I don't agree with either of those things. I think it's a combination of the two that is the only way it can ever work, which is, you know, the person who's being offended they need to, take things in stride and realize maybe the perspective of the other person a little bit more. And the same goes for the person that's saying whatever the fuck they want, which, you kind of got to go both ways. You can't be offended by everything, and you can't just say whatever you want all the time unless you want people to think you're an asshole, which is fine if it is.
And you would go both ways, number one. Number two,
I swing left-handed and right-handed.
I wanted to say too, back in the day, I guess
it was a Wednesday.
People also, by the way, it was a Wednesday. People had a bit more etiquette in their daily routines as well, I believe.
Kind of, but okay. So I believe that most people had a sense of etiquette, and they were just like, well, I wouldn't have been that guy. But like you always had that kind of obnoxious guy or the drunk guy who was the football star in high school and just nothing ever panned out, so you're just a dick to everybody, or that crazy uncle or whatever. Like, there's always been those type of people. But what I found is like as these generations are coming up behind us, they're like deciding that if they tell an adult everyone should be on their side and everything should be fixed and they should be compensated. And you have
whatever happens to them is not their responsibility.
It's not their fault. It's not they're a special snowflake. They are the most special of all snowflakes, and there are
they are.
Yeah, they are. They're the helmet worthy. So there's this theory, and I'm gonna kind of brutalize this and try and remember it, but it's a horseshoe theory as far as intellectual thought goes, but is to say that one train of thought taken to a radical will bend so far, let's say to the left, and then when you take it to the radical on the other end, it'll bend all the way to where it's pretty much doing the exact same thing, but from two different avenues. And like
same
you were
effect,
saying, you were saying it's somewhere in the middle. It's because one radical is saying, I can do whatever you want, and you need to man up, right? And now a complete other side of it is saying, no, everybody needs to be friendly with everybody else, and you don't have to man up because that's sexist. And what you need to do is just everyone be fine. And it's still messed up.
That voice he used.
Yeah, well, it's how I view all of them. I just don't want it anymore. You're triggering me.
No matter which way you go on this little horseshoe you're talking about, it's still people telling other people how to act so that they will feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Kind
Which,
of.
to me, the onus is on yourself. Where like, I think of it the same way as like if you're showing like Scarlett a show or something like that. Like, it's not just the TV's responsibility to say, like, we're not going to air this because there might be a kid somewhere who's going to see it and that'll warp their little brain and they'll go crazy or whatever. But it's also, not totally your responsibility to constantly watch your kid 24/7 either, I don't think. I mean, depending on where you're at. Like, if you're on Cartoon Network or something, great. Like, they shouldn't show two people fucking.
Right.
Because that's for kids.
Right.
But at the same time, you can't turn on HBO and then see people fucking. Yeah. And then be like, I can't believe HBO showed this. Scarlett watched it and you're sitting right next to her.
I absolutely
you should
agree.
keep her from watching the fucking. So
or you should explain what's happening. I don't know. I don't know how you want to parent, but.
Now, when dragons were real, this is how two people penetrated each other.
No, I think that absolutely you can't. Running to the FCC and having them hold your hand the entire time is the absolute wrong way to go about it. And I do think that people, need to be more hands-on with parenting. And I think that's actually a big part. I thought beforehand, growing up, when there was a huge conservative rush on sex ed, where they're like, "You're teaching my kid how to put a condom on," and you're saying vagina, grr. And it's like, you don't want to have the talk with your child, which is why they have to have that class, because otherwise, AIDS.
Right.
Or otherwise, everybody would go into that class and they'd go, I already know all this because my parents.
There would be no need for it if, the majority, you'd have the one, couple of special kids, and they would have to be special. I was a special kid because my parents, my mom, my dad didn't care, but my mom would not let me go to sex ed. So then I had to learn about it in the dictionary. When all my friends knew about it, I felt so fucking stupid because I was like, there's no reason why a preteen kid going into adolescence should not know.
And I think those days are over too because
The internet.
Because of the internet. I mean, really, if I'm a 10-year-old kid and I want to know what sex looks like, I could see it anywhere. I could see whatever. The fuck
When
I
dragons
want.
were real.
What's a blumpkin? Oh, yeah, found it. Immediately found it.
I remember they sent a note home that was basically like, we're about to send your daughter to sex ed. Do what you gotta do. Basically, it wasn't
Prepare
like
yourself.
Maybe
Come
try
at me, bro. Come at me.
And
maybe
so-
try to head this off.
yeah, and that's what my mom decided to do. She was like, "Whoops, I haven't gotten to that yet, so I want that to come from me." So she's sat me down and we talked about it. I was like, "This is awkward," and then when I was in class, it wasn't super awkward with all of my friends around me, and we're
Now-
just like,
If I remember right, that was an optional thing, wasn't it?
I think your parents could say I don't know.
Your parents could say no. And they sent
Right.
me to ISS, which was detention.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
They were like, "You're not actually in trouble. We just don't have a place to put you." And I
Yeah,
was
that's
like,
what I was gonna say. It's like we don't know what to do with you. We can't.
Yeah.
We can't put you in another class where you might learn something else.
That's
Yeah.
kind of fucked up
Sorry,
that
don't-
they
Yeah.
give you the
No,
option,
that's-
but they don't have a
I
contingency.
sat there for half an hour and I did nothing. I had no homework. I just sat there for a week,
Yeah.
half an hour each day.
That's stupid.
"Get
Yeah.
a hobby, damn."
Right?
So this
And you were like, and I still don't know how to put a vagina in a penis. And your parents were like, "We did it. we
Just my mom.
We saved him."
Just my mom. I'm gonna put blame where blame's due. My dad was like, "I don't care. Just send them up on their way. They'll figure it out." My mom was like, "No, Jesus." So
That's why Sam makes all those weird, fucked up hand gestures when we're playing.
He's like, guys, like fucking.
when you go and you sit.
Why are both fists? There's too many fists there.
He's the only one here with the daughter. Just saying, just
not enough.
an actual fun.
So how many fists do you guys use? None, Sam. What are you talking about?
I use all the teeth. How much teeth do you guys use?
I'm gonna
You
make
added
it
an
so
extra
dry
zero.
for you.
So much teeth.
I'm just gonna do this with my hands. No, don't do that.
Don't ever do
Don't
that.
ever do that.
I heard this
How much
online
teeth
once.
do you want?
You lick all your fingers so they get real cold, and then you just touch them with your little cold fingers. Ladies love that. Like they're being stabbed with little daggers. Little daggers.
What?
Like cold daggers.
Yeah,
What?
that's
And
what I
that's
learned in
it,
sex
right
ed.
there, That's it.
That's what I
Well, I think this is interesting because it actually kind of harkens back to our conversation last time about sex and violence in America being different than other parts of the world, and this is an exact point of that. People are too scared to talk about it, or it's too awkward to mention it to your kids. Where if you just do it from the get-go, or make it not weird, just try and make it a normal part of life, which a lot of other countries do. I know they have the sex. I know a lot of other countries don't even know. They don't have a sex talk. It's not about sitting down at one time and
It's just
talking
common
about it.
education.
It's literally you just don't hide it. You just if they have a question, you answer it, and maybe as you go, I don't know.
That's how I've been.
Pretend
That's how
answers.
Lynn and I have been with Scarlett.
Which is great.
She's very intelligent and she asks a lot of hard questions that most parents would be like, "Oh, I'll tell you when you're older." I don't think I've
It's
ever
the
told her.
story.
Good. You should.
Yeah, I've never told her, "I'll tell you when you're
bird.
older." I've actually had to keep my mouth shut. My wife wanted her to have the Christmas illusion,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, "You're just like she," because when we first pitched it to her, and Lynn will deny this up and down now, but when we first pitched it to her that Santa comes to your house and does all that stuff, she was just like, "No, he doesn't." And I was like, "That's right, that's right, he does not."
That was a test. We lied to you. You passed.
Yes. So
You're smart enough not to believe in Magic Man.
And I tried to, and my preference would just be like, no, just let her know that it's all from us and that we all give, and that's the spirit, and that's fine. And she's like, no, she's 5. Well, now she's 5, because the kind of talk still happens. But she's like, she wants the magic, just let it be. I'm like, all right, we'll just let it be.
Magic.
But she gets upset. Scarlett gets upset when things don't add up, like we're saying they do, because rightfully so you should be upset. And I'm just like, ask your mother. Ask your mother, because I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I know it's not real. You know it's not real. And somewhere
I'm not gonna try and lie to you by lying to myself.
Yeah, someone's gotta get thrown under the bus, and I'm not gonna do the throwing. I don't know.
Well, and the other thing too is, and this kind of actually ties into what we're talking about as well, because like with the Santa illusion, like another situation you may want to avoid is a bunch of her like classmates or something are talking about Santa Claus, and then you don't want her like standing up in the middle of the room and being like, Santa is not real.
Yeah.
Like, all children no longer believe. I will lead you to the truth. I mean, again, that's
your new Santa.
yeah, exactly.
I would
A
love
single
to
beam of
subscribe.
light comes in through the classroom window,
Oh my
and she's
gosh.
just
Somebody get it on video. No, when I was a kid, I asked, because I was like, is that a character, or is he a real person? And my mom wanted to keep the illusion going, and my dad was just like, no. Nope. Actually, Christmas is about Jesus. Like, but, I mean, that's what
like,
he wanted
oh.
to do. So,
That makes sense of why there's a fat white guy sending out presents.
got it.
yeah.
I see
but
the
they
connection
were also
now.
they were just like, listen, not everybody believes what you believe. And to make this holiday for more, interactive for more people, they've done this. They think it's great. It's magical for them. Please don't ruin it for other kids. And so I was like, oh, okay. So, like, I kind of felt like I had a secret from all my friends.
Yeah, and
Me and my-
that's the best
me and
way
my
to approach it,
parents
I
had a
think.
secret.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And I thought it was fun. And, yeah.
Just be like, think about how shitty you felt when I told you that Santa wasn't real and we were just fucking with you for
Right.
6 years or whatever. Don't do that to another kid.
Yeah. Well,
Let them have their parents ruin their lives.
Yeah. You can do that once you have a kid if you want.
Right.
Just don't do it with the other kids.
I want Scarlett when she's 10 or 11 and her friends are just finding out, when turn 9 I just found out, turn 10 I just found out, and then she's like, nerds, I knew all along. Ha! So, did you just
Yeah, my
spit in my
dad-
face?
My dad told me Santa was bullshit. Y'all are idiots.
Or Scarlett's to the point where she's like, "Oh, you guys, you're completely wrong. Like, I've actually rolled with Santa."
Yeah, she's gonna troll.
She's
that
gonna be the troll
hard.
friend. God, I hope so.
I
I
can
hope
see
that
I can
for
see
her.
that for her. Yeah.
She's
absolutely.
She's so intelligent. Like, she's great.
I actually stayed up late and met him. We ate cookies,
Yeah.
and I brought an extra glass of milk for myself.
We're bros.
So now that we hit being offended, sex ed, and Santa Claus, let's talk about an offended Santa Claus who needs sex ed. So,
No.
I can't believe you'd say that about Mrs. Claus. I'm gonna go home right now and put my thing in or whatever. You don't know what you're doing, do you? That's why all he has is elves. He has no
dangerous.
kids.
My weed and her vajayjay.
Because he doesn't know to put his
His ween.
foot in her...
belly button.
His ween.
Does she put it in him, or...
yeah, no, it's hot chocolate. Just wherever it goes.
Yes, drink cocoa, and then the elves will bring you your child.
I'm glad I'm already
What's wrong
friends with
with
you guys. 'Cause that's the first impression of Yikes.
Story of our lives.
So let's talk about kind of about you can't expect someone else to fix your problem and hold your hand and stuff like that. But on the flip side, you were saying, Kip, that it comes on individual responsibility too, not to be a douchebag all the time, right? And that falls in line with etiquette versus political correctness. Now, etiquette, I believe, is what everyone should have, right? And I think we all agree on that. Political correctness, I think, is something that no one should have.
Go ahead and define the difference.
The difference is etiquette would be having empathy in a situation and understanding when not to say something, when to go about something, to give someone the correct amount of human dignity and respect that each person should get. I wouldn't say deserves, because some people don't really deserve much of anything because they're just, dicks. But you still, to have good etiquette or proper etiquette, you still give that person the benefit of the doubt, or like that little bit of dignity that they as a human being share with you. Political correctness goes a step further in saying that you are going to censor or stop altogether a outlet of speech or action that can't really hurt someone, actually, and that being what society backs up, society being a collective group of individuals. So when you're talking about political correctness, I know that some people listening will be like, no, that's not true. The words can hurt. Well, you can be hurt when someone says it because you chose to accept that as your reality, and you are now offended and hurt and wounded, and it brought up your past and all those things. But I think I talked about this beforehand, but a friend of ours brought in his girlfriend, and she got very upset because I had made a joke about, I asked her what she did for a living, and then I said besides meth. And apparently there was some issue with drug addiction in her family, and I had no idea about any of that when I made the joke, but I didn't change my stance.
That's just
I just repeated the question when she got mad, because an adult would say, I'm upset because all these things, would you mind not doing it? And me having proper etiquette, saying like, oh, that's another human being, I would have probably said, oh, my bad, I didn't know. But the route that she took was just to get up, storm out, throw curse words in front of my child, and act like a 5-year-old that just got a skinned knee. So, so that's the problem that I have with that, and that's the difference that I see. What do you guys think?
I think that the main thing that occurs to me as the difference is that etiquette is something that you decide yourself, that you think like, this is the boundary that I'm comfortable with setting for myself so that I don't offend somebody else. And political correctness is like, as a group, we've all decided that this is an offensive thing now. So it's like, one is you making the decision, and the other is telling you, other people telling you what not to say.
Forced upon you versus...
Which is why I agree with you that etiquette is appropriate and that political correctness is not. Mm-hmm. I think that everyone should make their own decision, and then, like we talked about before, if somebody thinks that I'm an asshole because I said something specifically, they can choose to no longer listen to what I have to say.
It's difficult to be politically correct because every other person has a different definition of what's politically correct.
Well, and there's two sides to every coin, so what one person is offended by, the other person's going to think is right, and vice versa.
Or fucking hilarious.
Yeah, or
it's
really
gonna
awesome.
Change depending on what's trending. What do you think about it, Cam?
I agree with you guys wholeheartedly. I think what portrays it best for me is South Park has actually kind of touched on these topics a couple of times.
What?
Yeah, right. Crazy.
Not them. They're so in the box. I don't understand.
They just don't like
They're constantly
anyone.
Irrelevant.
Yeah, right. But I know there was the one episode from years ago that was people getting offended by things, and so them banning it. Mm-hmm. And they literally, by the end of the episode, everything is banned because one person said they were, they don't like the Star of David, and it was a Christmas one because they were gonna do like the manger scene and everything like that, and people just kept getting offended by the shepherds and kept getting offended by this and that, and so by the end it's just one kid standing out there in like his underwear like talking, and then they kick him off too. And it's like, oh my god, that's kind of the point we're getting to. And then has anybody seen the most recent season of South Park?
No.
Maybe.
It is fantastic. It is actually, all the episodes go in order and build off of one another. It starts with the principal getting kicked out and being replaced by PC
Principal. Yep. Okay.
Who is one of the greatest characters ever.
Oh, he's fucking hilarious.
Because anybody says anything and he is immediately on them like, don't you fucking say that. Like,
PC, bro.
It's not PC. Are you PC?
He's
PC,
a total bro about it, too.
Bro? And like, the near the end of it, the pinnacle of it all, the very best, is he's running down the hallway. He's like, who the fuck did this? Who the fuck edits the school paper? I didn't break his fucking legs. Who the fuck did this? Somebody put retarded, use the word retarded in the paper. Who did this? And one of the kids goes, that's who's the editor of the paper. It's Jimmy, the cripple with no legs. And he goes, you still going to break his legs, PC Principal? And the following scene is just gold because it's Jimmy.
Don't ruin it.
No,
Don't ruin it.
I'm not. I'm just setting up. It's Jimmy and PC Principal, and Oh my god.
Triple fact.
What do you think, Elliot?
So did you see the episode where Cartman, like, he doesn't have a lot of followers on Twitter, or somebody says something mean about him on Twitter? So a PC principal is it Kyle or Stan? I can't remember, but he's having him like filter out all the tweets so that Eric doesn't see the mean tweets that are written about him. Or
Yeah. Eric is getting offended by tweets, so he tasks somebody else to filter out everything for him.
yeah, so Eric doesn't have to see the mean tweets about himself.
It's just like that's kind of where we're getting to as a society.
How do you feel about it, Brenda?
Oh, well.
And that's enough of that. Let's move on.
It doesn't matter what you think about it.
You're female, shut your mouth.
Where's my sandwich?
God damn it.
Guys, do you know why women's feet are smaller than men's feet?
So they can get closer to the stove?
Yes, that's correct.
Yay! Gold
And
star!
Sam gets a kip point for this podcast.
Sexist remark.
Good job.
No, seriously. What do you think about it?
So
Everybody
being
work on your
sexist gets us
KPs.
kip points.
Because right now, Sam's the only one on the board.
I never go in the kitchen. God. I don't even cook. God. Ramen, what is that? No.
That's a dish you go to. Ramen?
Yeah, if you can't cook
Cereal.
ramen.
What about cereal?
Cereal,
I can cook
God.
ramen.
I think ramen might be easier than cereal.
Drowning in water or something watery.
You gotta wait 3 minutes. That's pretty.
I tried to pour cereal. I burned my hands.
How? Elaborate.
It's that hot milk, bro.
So now what you think? I work on that. No, I don't know. I feel like everybody could kind of just live their life how they want to. I do agree that etiquette is important just because there's a difference between, like, you saying something that reminds me of my past and, like, me being mad about that, like, and you having no idea, like, there's no possible way for you to know that. And then there's the difference of you actually attacking me, like, if you
It's all in the intent.
Well, no. See, I have an issue with that too because I don't believe in cyberbullying. I don't believe
You don't believe it's a thing? Or
I
you
don't believe that it's an actual thing. I don't believe that a person can actually be cyberbullied, and I know that I'll get a lot of flack for that. But to me, bullying, your bully does not let you leave the torment, right? Now, cyberbullying, you can not be there, right? I can not be in the you know.
Everybody's so connected, though, man.
Yes.
There's no way.
Every
people can't.
situation, you can just back out of that conversation.
Listen,
If there's a Facebook message group,
there are
if there-
ways to block people on Facebook and any other social
and then they
media.
create a
media
new account and they harass you some more. And so they do that every time you block them, so that's not going to stop them.
Okay, you can not be on Facebook as well. It's
I
very
don't, I
simple.
don't think that's possible
I
for a
mean,
lot of people.
No, it is
Yes.
very possible for
And I mean,
everyone to
if it
do.
costs
People
you to
don't
do
do
all
it
that,
because they
that's
think they need it. They don't
Right.
need it.
I mean,
now my
that's the
point is,
thing.
listen, I was actually bullied
But this
when
is-
I was a
but-
kid.
okay.
Right? So, and actually bullying, you
As
always
was I.
have to go, okay, you always have to go to the same spot, right? So I have to go to the same school, right, until, you know, I make a stink with the
No,
principal
you
or
could have
not.
dropped out.
Not at like 8.
Yeah, sure, why not?
No, you can't. You have to, by law, be in school. I was actually homeschooled because this happened. So, which didn't, you know, get me away from bullying because I had brothers. But, so, you know, you have to go to the same place, whatnot. They, you know, you have to go to the bathroom sometime, those type of deals, and they lock you in the stall or they corner you after class, and there's no way you can go until you take the beating, right? And that's bullying. To me, if someone says mean things to you, hurtful things to you, your parents should teach you how to deal with negativity. They should teach you how. Now that goes on both sides. There should be education on how to deal with negativity and harassment and those things, and there should be education on how not to be and how to recognize when someone is being, right? I believe that people in general, no matter what age they are responsible for both. But I do not think that a person can say that being bullied on social media is something that they can't get away from.
So here's my thing. I mean, you say they can just up and quit. It's like I don't know. To me, that seems kind of ridiculous. They have to change their entire lifestyle because of these bullies. And you say that's not bullying.
There
they
are
have
other
to literally
avenues to deal with the bullies, though. But my point is that when these people say that there's no other alternative, and I don't want to be cold or whatever, but when people commit suicide and things of that nature because people are so hurtful to them with their words,
that's ridiculous to me.
I think that's a lack. Well, that's kind of where it ends up. That's the extreme.
But
right?
I think being upset by somebody or, being harassed by somebody online, like, yeah, you can get away, but, you move over to Twitter instead. Okay, well, they find you there and they do it to you. Like, you literally have to drop all social media, are not allowed to use this main avenue of communication in this current time period. You have to just drop it because you're being bullied, and you say that's not a thing. That just is what surprises me.
So, you're able to not be cyberbullied. Right?
And you're able to not be really bullied by running away. Even though it's illegal, you can still do it.
Fair enough.
I'm not trying to, argue. I'm just really interested by this. I've never heard somebody say they don't believe in cyberbullying. Here's
the difference, though. So. I think that we as a society, we as a nation, we have a common belief that there's a need for education, right? And so you have to be educated. You have to go to this by law, right? You don't, by law, need to have Facebook. You don't, by law, need to have social media.
Sure. Okay, how about the kids that get bullied not at school? Maybe downtown in their hometown. Oh, they're not... Okay, they can avoid being bullied by not going downtown. That's
don't ever leave your house.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yes, you can cut yourself off from all communication.
We're not taking out that there are no other avenues to deal with this. My point is that I don't think that it's an actual... a bully. I think it's verbal abuse. I think that it's a verbal attack.
So it has to be physical to be bullying for you. It cannot be emotional or psychological.
I believe to be bullied, you can't get away from it, and I don't think that this has been argued to that extent.
Okay, so yeah, okay, that's interesting to me. I don't. I was literally talking to you. I can't continue a conversation without you. We'll just cut.
I think I mean, we can cut around or whatever, but I kind of agree with both of you. I agree with you, Cam, in that it's very difficult for somebody who is growing up now to cut themselves off from these things that everybody uses them to communicate. So, I mean, leaving that situation is difficult.
Sort of like
I mean, yes, in theory you could do it. I mean, yeah, you could, like he said, not ever go anywhere or do anything and avoid bullying by laying in a coffin until you die of old age or whatever. Right. But I also agree with Sam in that there should be education ahead of time so that instead of encountering that situation, not knowing how to handle it, and then having it continue like that, if you kind of just let people know how to deal with stuff. I'm not arguing that point at all. No, I know.
I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, and I think that's the solution. Whether or not you're in, the Sam camp or the Cam camp as far as what is or isn't, education to me always seems to be the solution. Where people have more knowledge of how to deal with something like that, then they will do it.
Yeah. Real quick before we go to Elliot, I want to say that it isn't that you're not being attacked, right? It is to me, I guess growing up before social media was such a part of everyone's lives, I don't see it as a necessity. So when you say, oh, I'm being bullied on social media and whatnot, I'm being cyberbullied and I can't get away from it, to me, I just get a landline, don't fucking use social media. To me, that's easy because, when we were growing up, we didn't have it.
And your life right now doesn't require it.
Exactly. Well, I don't think that, in my perspective, I don't think anyone does. But go ahead, Elliot.
I disagree. I kind of feel like, as far as cyberbullying goes, there's it's all about your image, especially in high school. So if you're getting bullied by somebody in high school, in your school, online, and it's not physical or whatever, I mean, if you block them or delete your Facebook account, and then people start asking you, well, why'd you do that? Like, well, I was getting bullied by Kip, and then Kip tells all his friends, well, Elliot's a giant fucking pussy
because he quit social media just because I said some stuff about him.
He just goes and cries about it, whatever. He deletes his Facebook, can't handle it, and then that starts going around. I want to protect my image.
Isn't that part of growing up though? Like being able to deal with that. You know,
Sure. And I mean,
And you
bullying
can
is a
deal
part
with
of
it.
growing up, and cyberbullying is a part of growing up.
You
just
can
saying,
deal with
though,
it both
I feel like they're
ways,
both-
but one is probably easier
It's
than the
not.
other.
It's not going to be easy for a lot of kids just to up and delete it or just block this kid. Like they either got to take it and not look like a pussy, and then
Their
be sad.
Their sports teams, their groups of friends, their clubs they're in, each have communication venues using Facebook. Now their entire life is augmented because they have to drop this. Yes, not a necessity per se, but it is a very, very important thing for many
I
people.
won't argue that. I won't argue that everyone feels a need to have it. I'm
And
only
this is coming
arguing.
from somebody that I hate my Facebook. I hate looking at Facebook.
I don't. I use
almost
social media
never
for
use it.
everything. I understand that you feel like there's a need for it. It's been marketed very well, and people have incorporated it in everything. And I actually used to make a lot of money off of it. But my viewpoint and has only been the argument that it's not needed. So
I
that was
agree.
my entire thing.
I agree.
But Brenda, what did you want to say?
I was just kind of gonna go off of what you had said earlier and what Kip had said, which was, it's gonna. I feel like it's gonna happen, whether it happens in person in a place where you feel like the law forces you to be, or in your personal social media lifestyle. You need that education before, and for some reason, there's this mindset that it's an either or education. Like you're either gonna tell your kids not to bully, or you're gonna tell them how to deal with bullies. I feel like both of those things need to happen.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, that's a
because
really
There's no arguing either side. It's just do both of those things.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop
It's
being
like,
lazy.
I mean, what's the convention that we all had when we were kids and bullying was going on? The message was don't bully.
Well, yeah, and
There was
it
never anything addressed to the person being bullied. Like,
Yeah.
At least that I saw, that was like, this is a good way to deal with it, and this is what you should do. It was always like, well, just don't be a bully.
Yeah,
And
don't
it's
be a
like,
bully.
Like the bully's gonna give a shit
when
about
people
what you say
bully you-
about him not bullying.
Oh, I would need to listen.
Oh,
to
I'm
what
not
these
supposed to
people
do
say.
that? Oh, shit. Well, sorry, guys.
Elliot, what do you want to say?
I want to go back to kind of the beginning of this where you said actual bullying or physical bullying you believe in, but cyberbullying you didn't. Do you guys view bullying as a cowardly act?
I do. I think that is acting out. It's whoever.
So
whomever
bullying's
it
a
is.
cowardly act.
Yeah.
So it would be even more prevalent online
Yeah.
where you can hide behind your computer. And
You don't
just-
have
you
to
can-
be a big
And
hulking guy to be a bully
anonymity,
anymore.
yeah.
Yeah,
it's
you
a
can.
huge
But-
thing.
If
my-
it's a cowardly act, it's going to be more readily available to somebody who's not going to be man enough or woman enough to bully somebody face to face. They're going
fact-
to go online. You can find somebody, just pick on them, say a few words, whatever. They might just brush it off, and you keep going at them, and then they get your response, and maybe you lash out and say something stupid. They get a screenshot, post it somewhere. You can't get rid of that or hide that.
My complete argument on this, right? My complete stance is the need versus non-need. So, education you need. You need to go to a place. You need to be homeschooled. Something. Social networking you don't. And you can say, oh, well, it's incorporated, and I agree with you. It's incorporated. Everyone uses it. I think that, being abused and stuff like that, that happens, and it does take a huge toll, and it does a lot of damage and things of that nature. I don't consider it bullying because you don't need it.
Okay, and that's where I don't think our definitions match because bullying does not require.
And that's fine. We don't need to
Because
agree on
I've
that.
never,
I'm just
I
saying
was
that
never
my
bullied in
stance.
school. I was always bullied outside of school, so it was always places I didn't need to be, places I wanted to be. I still consider it bullying.
Whether you need it or not, like if the words hurt, I mean, yeah, that's on you. If the words hurt you, that's on you. And
Kinda.
but to a degree.
No,
to a
no.
degree.
We're
Listen,
talking about etiquette.
Listen, well, I can go off and be a complete racist. I can go off and say a bunch of racial slurs and be completely misogynistic and derogatory and just a complete ass. And you can choose to be offended. But,
There's still something on you there.
well, hold on now. Like, I can neglect and just completely ignore all etiquette and all respect for other people. And everyone's going to look at me as the bad guy, which they should. Right? But whether or not you get offended or whether or not you feel abused by it and all those things and allow it to fester and wound and all those things is on you. And I think that comes full circle into people need to be taught how to deal with negativity, and people need to be taught how to identify and nullify a bully, right?
But my point in saying that though is that you've been bullied. Like if you let that hurt you, you just got bullied, and that's real.
That's just what the definition is. I guess we should just go back to what the definition of bullying is to everybody, because
I think that's where the miscommunication is coming in, is that, and it's fine to have different opinions on that.
Not bullying, but I feel like verbal abuse,
regardless of what you call it, it's what it causes that is what matters. I think.
So this is such a good topic because it's so hard to make a concrete decision.
Well,
one way or the other
I agree with a lot of people's topics too. I just. Sam, you're not the only devil's advocate at the time.
What? I'm out of here. What is this? No, I mean that's fine. I think that things like verbal abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, I think they're all tools. And just because those things are in play does not make it a bullying situation. I think that. Well, in regards to a radical result being that someone takes their own lives or harms themselves because somebody else did something, right? That's kind of where all of this ends up, and that's kind of where I hit it at. And that is, you don't need to be there. And so if you're going to take your life or hurt yourself, you didn't need to be there. And then now let's take a step back, because I think that's what we're all kind of focusing on. There are other avenues to deal with people who are verbally abusing you, physically abusing you, emotionally abusing you, but that does not mean that you have to be or are being bullied, is my point.
So there's a certain effect, I think, that none of us are considering, or maybe aren't considering as important, which is, well, actually twofold. One is having an actual mental health issue that does not allow you to comprehend that.
Fair enough.
Which is more prevalent now than it ever has been, because people who have mental health issues are living and procreating with other people who also have them. It's
Brenda.
Just, it's just magnetizing. Yeah. People who are really fucked up. Brenda.
Fatality.
Sweet little interjection there.
wow.
No scope 420 places.
Thank you for joining us, Brenda. We'll see you never again, probably.
The no scope kind of is what got me. Like you just jumped up and like, so anyway, so there's that, which is that somebody can take something worse than they should because they can't not, because of a chemical imbalance in their brain. Sure. That's one thing, but the other thing is that just because somebody says something shitty about you and you're not offended doesn't mean that doesn't affect your life. Because if let's say I'm friends with everybody at this table, and then I'm on Facebook. Let's say, I know it's not true, but let's say, hypothetically, I'm friends with all of you, okay? And then I'm on Facebook, and Elliot says something shitty about me, and he's like, "Kip, you dick's too big," or whatever. and I'm like, stop telling people this. And I'm like, I'm sick of Elliot talking about my dick, so I'm gonna get off of Facebook. But then all three of you see that and you go, yeah, Kip does have a really huge dick. I'm not going to talk to him anymore.
And
then
Elliot still gets to keep talking about it.
All of a sudden, Elliot's still talking shit about me. I've
big dick having ass bitch.
And none of my friends will talk to me now.
Here's two points. The first point is why the hell would you care about hanging out with people who are like, oh, Kip's being called a racist by Elliot or something like that. Now I guess I know
image, man.
His wing
it's all
is
about the
so
image.
big. I am never gonna hang out with Kip ever, because it's like hanging out with a tripod all the time. Like, why would you want to hang out with people who decided not to hang out with you because of something that douchebag Elliot said?
I mean,
it's all about the image. Like if he's part of the cool crew.
Well, no. Like okay,
it's
I had a different
part of it's their
high
age.
school. Well, I had a different high school experience than most people, I guess, too, because I didn't really hang out with too many high school people. I did it in small doses, and I hung out with like older people. Yeah, let's touch hands. Older people, like freshmen in college, sophomore in college, whatnot. And that's who I hung out with most of the time. And then I would hang out with high schoolers every now and then because they were all catty. They talked about dumb shit, and nothing they ever said mattered, just ever.
And there are a lot of people who go to high school who don't know college kids who are old enough to realize that these things are not
That's
true.
kind of why I tried to preface that way, because to me it doesn't make sense. Like because
you were never part of that high school lifestyle.
So that's where your mindset is.
Yeah, because you skipped that and went more mature, which is, I would say, a good thing. The high school
Hopefully.
drama is
And then as soon
one
as
of
I
my-
tried to adult, it just stopped. I just stopped being mature.
and I was gonna say, I'm really surprised to hear all this because of how immature you are.
Like if you would have hung out with me like 15 years ago, you'd be like, man, this guy's ahead of his time. And like
And then
3
you
years ago, you'd be like,
stop.
why?
You stay right there.
Why?
just did
You
it
were doing
backwards.
so
You're just the
well.
Benjamin Button of the situation.
So the other thing I do want to say, I will concede on points, but it's less of cyberbullying and just society in general. If someone uses the word like racist or rapist or misogynist or anything like that, and then they use any sort of content to back it up, even if it's taken out of context, especially if it's taken out of context, it can ruin someone's life. So, for instance, I don't know if there's any credibility to it or not, but there was a situation with Tobuscus, who is a big YouTuber and whatnot, but one of his ex-girlfriends has come out and claimed many years after the breakup that he abused her emotionally and physically, and that he raped her and all these things. And everyone was kind of taken back because if you ever watch anything on Tobuscus, he's always very lively, very energetic, very kind and stuff. And all of his ex-girlfriends kind of chimed in and were like, no, he's fine. But that doesn't change the fact that damage is done. So I can say and concede that verbal abuse, emotional abuse, and physical abuse can ruin someone's life.
So is it just the word bullying? Like, would you rather think of it as like cyber abuse?
Harassing.
No, there are already words for it. Is my point.
Well, I mean, the thing is, for me, the reason I think we're having you have a very specific definition for bullying. Bullying is a synonym for persecute, oppress, tyrannize, browbeat, harass, torment, intimidate, strong-arm, dominate. It literally means the same thing. The definition is use superior strength or influence to intimidate someone, typically to force them to do what you want them to do.
All right. Well, then, with that definition, I will concede.
Okay. I like your argument because I agree. I think I'm not trying to belittle the situation.
No, that's fine. I just hate
because, and I agree with you to the point that a lot of things that people call bullying and cyberbullying are not that.
Yeah.
Like they are not. That's just a grow thicker skin sort of situation. A lot of it's just ignore them. But I don't like the phrase that it doesn't exist because I have definitely seen situations where it is as bad, if not worse, than in-person physical bullying.
Yeah, the last thing I wanted to say about it was that I feel like bullying, like you said, internet wasn't like as neat, like as used.
Prevalent.
Yeah.
I used a big word.
Prevalent.
Be proud of me.
Anyway,
Brenda.
Good job saying it.
Brenda.
challenging characters. But I feel like just as technology evolved, so did the bully. It's just like, well, this, they are there just as they were there in your neighborhood,
Well, and the worst
the
part,
neighborhood is bigger now because it's the internet.
and it doesn't. You don't have to be a particular type of person to be a bully. Before, you had to be physically strong or intimidating to coerce people for the most part. Now, any Joe Schmo can be a cyberbully because there's
Like,
no
as you talk
physicality.
shit about
Narnia.
people.
Yeah, and harass. But
So interestingly enough, we spoke about VR and all that last time, but I was reading an article and one of these creators had put on the headset and gone online with some other players, and he was talking about how other players were getting like right in his personal space, like to the point where he could reach out and touch you kind of in the no-no zones. and it can become pretty invasive, especially if there's a few guys ganging up on a girl or vice versa.
Now, I'm sorry, to clarify, was it their physical bodies were getting so close they could touch, or was it just virtually?
Virtual, but it was
Okay.
verbal, but you're right in your space. So, with the VR, the whole thing is you're supposed to feel like you're there. So if you feel like you're there in that situation and you're having that sort of experience, to the point where he felt like it was pretty disgusting in the article. I can't remember who it was or...
There's a lot of butt touching.
Virtual reality, open world scenarios, I feel like could possibly be the lowest our society will ever go digitally because of things like that. Now I have a physical representation that I can just physically do whatever I want in this world. Like the kind of trolling that you see online, like go read the YouTube comments for any popular video. It's like just the scummiest,
Yeah.
fucking shittiest people.
Most
but
people
then
on
that-
YouTube don't even read the comments on their own videos.
and then they get,
You hear that, YouTubers? You hear that, everyone watching this? Yeah.
Find somebody in a virtual
are
space
assholes.
and you walk up and you're like, damn, what I would do to you, or you start reaching out and touching them and whatnot. And, I mean, that can
experiencing
get pretty
that
fucked
in virtual reality is the same as like you having virtual reality headset on and you look down and the virtual floor falls out from underneath you. You get that pit in your stomach where you're
Yeah.
falling.
Yeah.
Like you're still experiencing that physically, which is also emotionally because it's just chemicals. So like
Right.
when somebody's going,
Kip's touching Cam right now. He's
you
touching
like,
his boob.
You like that,
The
bitch?
giggling, the
And
giggling.
he's like, no, I don't. Now he feels that, and I actually did grope him, but if it was virtual, it would still probably feel pretty real.
Probably registered,
to you.
'cause
I just played online and got groped.
Right.
Yeah,
And-
exactly.
and
Cool.
your mind
I
could be
just logged into grope.net or whatever. I'm like,
Let's address the point that many males create a female avatar.
Yes.
yep.
And you're just like, oh, boobs. And you're like, no, man, but I really have a schlong.
That's gonna take
Please don't.
cybering. That's gonna take cybering to a new level.
Yeah.
That's what everybody's waiting
It's like a
for.
sword out online where the guy
exactly
plays the
what-
female avatar and they're forced to
That's
be an
exactly
avatar
what I was going to
themselves.
just reference.
It's like, oh, dude, you're a dude.
Sword Art Online touches on like all the things we've talked
Yeah.
about a little bit. There's a lot
The
of good.
weird manly grunting coming from
Because like the very first
Forcing
episode of
your own
that,
avatar.
do you guys know the premise? Sword Art Online.
I watched it.
I don't even know what we're talking about.
Okay, Sword Art Online is,
You're not.
is an anime. It's really, really, really good. Pretty recent, but basically a new virtual reality video game, open world MMO comes out. Everybody logs in day one. They're in there having fun, leveling up, and then they find out they can't log out, and now they're stuck in the game. The creator of the game brings them all together, then changes from their avatars' looks. All the headsets had scanned everybody's bodies and basically brought their physical bodies into the virtual world. So now they are themselves. They can't hide behind anything.
Yeah.
And then if they die in the game, they die for real.
If you're a man
It's-
and you've got a female avatar, all of a sudden you're a man.
Yeah,
wearing
and
female
they
clothing.
did that. Like there was two of them. They're like, "You told me you were a guy. You told me you were 14 or whatever." Like, just silly stuff.
Right.
But then later on, there's also it touches on the cyberbullying sort of thing because that show is an amazing look into what people would do in that sort of situation because it gets very real.
Yeah, and then there's some player killers that are
There's
going
player
after
killers that
people.
are just like, well, we don't know for sure that people die in the real world because we haven't gone out to see the real world. So I'm just going to keep doing things for myself, sort of thing. Like, there's a lot of good
Brenda.
points with that.
I pointed to you.
That's what I would do.
I verbally said your name.
How dare
I would be like,
win.
well, this is literally a life or death situation now, so I'm gonna do the same thing I would do if we had a purge in the real world, which is to
Get
fucking
ganked,
kill everybody
bitch.
else.
There was a safe space.
Oh, yeah,
That's
there's safe
important for
spaces.
everybody. Just in case you get triggered, there was a
we
safe
needed
space.
to talk about that.
Oh, that's
actually.
nice.
What?
Nice.
Why?
Safe spaces.
We don't need to talk
So
about safe
Oxford,
spaces.
speaking
Oh,
of
fine.
safe space, what?
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
So in
I mean,
Oxford,
besides the
Just say it
general,
5 more
sense-
times.
you weren't here. Don't worry
Oh,
about it.
okay.
I'll bring you up to speed. So in Oxford University is one of the colleges that have decided to implement a safe space for their students, right? Which is no big thing apparently now. But during lectures now, they're allowing that if you feel triggered by anything said in a lecture, you can retreat to a safe space. And this goes to include their law school portion. So you're dealing with attorneys that you believe, are very prestigious and came from Oxford or whatever, and they missed lectures and like crucial parts because the word rape triggers them.
That sounds like a really good way for people to leave class because they don't feel like being in
Being in there,
that
right?
sounds so abusable.
And then on top of that,
They're lawyers. They can lie their asses
right,
off.
on top of that, they're like, you don't understand any of the criteria that we went over for this past semester. It's like, yeah, but it triggered me.
I don't
So
know any of those
you
laws
need-
because I one time was offended by a thing that was said.
Yeah, my dog raped the couch, and that hit me. That struck me in the feels.
Right in this area.
Which is anatomically correct. It's the feels, which is by the, spliegel sploosh. And what you need to know is that because I wasn't there because I was triggered, I should pass the bar. Done. Only they say it in English.
Well,
accent.
then, and that's the thing is you can't
Oh,
you can't not know you can't not meet the criteria for a program.
You can't hold them accountable, though. It's not their fault.
Graduate from the program.
Yes.
No, it's not their fault.
Yes.
They're a special fucking snowflake.
It's their fault that they cannot handle the criteria for being a
If you
lawyer.
can't
And or their
handle it,
parents.
Then this is not what you need
Right.
to study.
Different
because-
avenue.
It's Santa's fault.
Santa.
God damn it.
It's Crab Santa.
Thanks a lot, Santa.
If they were going to represent somebody.
Oh, well, I was just thinking, like, if they were dealing with, let's say, rape or whatnot, and then you were raped, and you're like, oh, I have this high-end Oxford lawyer who's going to defend me in the rape case, but then has no idea about any of these things and somehow passed the bar because they were triggered by it, now I'm screwed. I personally don't understand how you would pass it outside of them giving it to you in some sort of affirmative action type situation. And
Unless you could, if you could just fail that portion of being a lawyer and still pass the bar.
But you can't, because, like, law school, in particular, you don't get graded on any sort of scale. You compete against your peers, and that determines your grade. So the only way that you could pass that is by beating your peers in knowing that.
Which should
Well,
be
that's
easy because
a
none of
handicap.
them.
Then that's a handicap you have to take and you have to make up for.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
they should just keep
so
it.
it's like
That
this,
is my-
like, you know, when two people are running from a bear, and they're like, oh my god, we got to run. He's like, I don't have to run faster than the bear. I just
Right.
have to run faster than you.
Right.
Like, just find somebody who's more triggered than you are, and just make sure they're in your law
ruin
school.
their lives, yeah.
And then
but
just
that's
be better.
bullying, and we can't do that.
Yeah, but only if it's on the computer.
Only if they find out.
If you run
doesn't happen
faster
in
than the
real
bear
life.
in person, then it's cyber.
You're tweeting them, haha, you're not running that fast. Good luck not getting tripped. Boop. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Loud, Confused, and Ready. If you like that, please hit the like button and subscribe. Show your support, we greatly appreciate it. We also have other videos that you might like by clicking on this one over here or this one over here. You can also let us know what you think on our Twitter, Instagram, all those things are in the description below. Thanks.